You are 26 years old, a candidate in the NASA program. You are strapped into a gondola at the end of a 50-foot arm, rotating at 3 Gs and climbing. Your flight suit is soaked through with sweat that can't evaporate in the sealed cabin. The pressure is an invisible anvil, pressing your spine into the seat, compressing your vertebrae. Your vision narrows. The gray tunnel, the classic terrifying symptom of G-induced cerebral hypoxia. The technician's voice crackles, impossibly calm. Candidate, report status. You try to speak, but your tongue weighs 10 pounds. The gray tunnel closes to a pinpoint. You are about to pass out. You are about to wash out. You are about to lose everything you've worked for since you were a child. Staring at the night sky from a cornfield in Iowa. Your father saying, "People have been up there. Why not you?" The centrifuge stops. The weight lifts. You gasp, sucking air. The technician returns. That was 4.2 Gs. The threshold is 8. You have 6 months to get there. You don't quit. You find the center of your nausea and push it into a small, dark room in your mind. This is the filter. This is level 1, and you haven't even left the ground. Level 1. The ASCAN. You are an ASCAN now. NASA's inelegant acronym for astronaut candidate. You wear a blue flight suit, but you are not an astronaut. You are a trainee, one of 12 people pulled from 18,000 applicants. Next to you sits a former Navy SEAL with a PhD. Across the aisle, an Air Force test pilot who has survived 3 ejections. You were the smartest person in any room you ever entered, and now you are crammed into a windowless classroom at Johnson Space Center in Houston, staring at orbital mechanics equations that look like alien scratchings. The instructor says, "Forget everything you think you know. We're going to teach you how to be a spacefarer, and you'll learn that you know nothing." The training is a 2-year gauntlet designed to break you. You learn the systems of the International Space Station until you can navigate the schematics blindfolded. You learn Russian because the Soyuz is the only ride to orbit. You spend hours in the Neutral Buoyancy Laboratory, a massive pool containing a full-scale mock-up of the ISS. You train in a 300-pound suit that feels like a water-filled coffin. The physical training is brutal. Supersonic jet flights where you learn not to vomit during 6G turns. Wilderness survival drops in Wyoming. One of your classmates, the Navy SEAL, panics during emergency egress training. He resigns the next day. The program moves on. You learn the hard truth. Selection isn't about finding the most talented. It's about finding the ones who won't break when the universe tries to kill them. Level 2, the rookie astronaut. The phone call comes on a Tuesday. You've earned your silver pin and spent 2 years doing the unglamorous labor that keeps the program running. The chief's voice is bureaucratic. You've been assigned to Expedition 72. Launch in 14 months. You're the flight engineer. Start packing. You stare at the wall. You call your father. When he answers, neither of you can speak. The 14 months evaporate in a blur of training in Star City, Russia. You train on the cramped analog Soyuz simulator. Your crewmates are Mikhail, a Russian commander with a face like weathered granite, and Yuki, a Japanese flight engineer. You bond the way only people facing death together can. Launch day at Baikonur Cosmodrome. The rocket stands like a white spire against a pale sky. You strap into the Soyuz, knees to your chest. The countdown is in Russian. Your heart pounds. The engines ignite. The world becomes noise, vibration, and unstoppable force. You are leaving. The sky outside darkens from blue to violet to the absolute black of space. You hear yourself laughing. You are an astronaut. The silver pin on your suit has just turned gold. Level 3, the ISS flight engineer. The first view of Earth from orbit is a wound that never heals. You float to the cupola observation window. The planet is a luminous blue marble suspended in an infinite black void. You feel an emotion with no name. It's grief. It's the realization that everyone you've ever loved, every war ever fought, exists on a thin, fragile film of atmosphere wrapped around a ball of rock. You cry. Almost everyone cries. Life on the ISS is a weightless routine. You learn to translate hand over hand along handrails. Your face swells as fluids shift upward. You develop a desperate addiction to hot sauce, the only thing that cuts through the blandness of space food. You sleep velcroed to the wall. The station hums, a constant drone of fans that becomes the soundtrack of your existence. Your work is a blur of science and maintenance. You draw your own blood and run on a treadmill strapped down with bungee cords. You repair the vacuum toilet when it inevitably fails. And then, the spacewalk. A 6-hour ballet of terror and transcendence. Exiting the airlock feet first, you are in a pressurized bubble. You work on a cooling system repair, your gloves pressurized to the point where your hands cramp into claws. Mikkel's voice crackles. Focus, you can write poetry later. You finish the repair. You re-enter the airlock, hands bleeding, soul expanded. Level 4. The veteran spacewalker, your mission ends. The return descent feels like a car crash in a tumble dryer. The parachutes deploy with a jolt that snaps your neck. You land in Kazakhstan, and the shock of gravity is like a sledgehammer. You have to learn how to walk again. But you are a veteran now. Your name carries weight. You become a specialist for complex EVAs. You've logged over 40 hours in the suit. You've replaced solar array, drive motors, and patched micrometeoroid punctures. You've learned to accept that death is a few millimeters of fabric away. You train new ASCANs now. You teach them tricks that aren't in the manual. How to flex fingers to prevent claw hand. How to manage CO2 buildup. You don't tell them about the nightmares where you're floating away from the station. The family cost is mounting. You've been married for 15 years, but home for maybe 10. Your children are teenagers. You attend a parent-teacher conference and realize you don't know the name of your daughter's best friend. You've walked in the void, but you are fading from your own home. Level 5. The Mission Commander, your fourth mission. You are the commander, responsible for 6 crewmates and a $150 billion asset. The promotion comes with a weight no centrifuge can simulate. You make the call when things go wrong. The mission is Expedition 89. You manage technical work and human dynamics. The petty conflicts that escalate in the pressure cooker of space. You are a therapist, a diplomat, a parent. The captain's burden is solitude. The crisis hits in month 4. An ammonia leak in the thermal system vents toxic coolant into space. Ground control requires an emergency EVA. You make the call to send yourself, knowing sending anyone else would be an abdication of command. It is an 8-hour nightmare of frozen bolts and leaking ammonia crystals that glitter like malevolent diamonds. The residue is highly toxic. When it's done, you float back through the hatch. Your crew doesn't say a word, they just hold you. Your hands are bloody and you don't care. You brought them home. The weight lifts slightly, but never completely. Level 6. The Chief of the Astronaut Office. Your flying days are over. You accept the ground assignment every astronaut dreads. Chief of the Astronaut Office. Your office is a windowless room at Johnson Space Center. Walls covered with photos of people you've flown with and people you've lost. Your days are consumed with personnel decisions. You select crews, balancing political demands and the crushing ambitions of active astronauts. You deny flight assignments to people who have waited a decade, watching their faces crumble. You write condolence letters to families after training accidents. You sit in meetings with politicians who discuss spaceflight in terms of quarterly metrics, biting your tongue. You miss flying with a physical ache. You watch launches on a monitor, feeling the phantom limb pain of absence. Someone has to hold the line and fight for the program. So, you become that fighter. Level 1. The agency leader, you are promoted to Associate Administrator at NASA headquarters in Washington, D.C. You are no longer an astronaut. You are a political animal managing the Artemis moon program and an $8 billion budget. Your flight suit is replaced by a business suit. The personal costs are absolute. Your marriage ended years ago. Your children are adults, and your conversations are polite but distant. You live alone in an Arlington apartment, eating takeout, reading budget documents until your eyes blur. You have achieved everything you ever dreamed of, and you paid for it with everything else. Level 8, the Oracle. You retire at 65. The transition is a vacuum. You give an inspiring speech, step off the podium, and walk into a silence that will last the rest of your life. You write a memoir filled with half-forgotten memories. You do book tours, answering questions from audiences who weren't born when you first flew. You tell the funny stories, but you never mention the cost. You don't talk about the empty house or the realization that you sacrificed everything for a view of the Earth that lasted maybe 40 hours of your life. They want the dream, so you sell them the dream. Level 9. The elder statesman, you are in your 80s, one of the last surviving members of your class. The reunions are small. You attend funerals of your crewmates. You wonder if any of it mattered, if the footprints on the lunar surface will outlast the species that left them. Mars is still a generation away. But then, you give a talk at a small school. A 10-year-old girl with a drawing of a rocket asks, "What do I have to do to become an astronaut?" You see yourself at that age. You kneel down and tell her, "Study math. Never let anyone tell you it's impossible." You drive back to your empty house, feeling peace for the first time in years. Level 10. The legacy, you pass away at 92. Your ashes are launched into orbit, a final journey to the realm you spent your life reaching toward. Your remains circle the Earth for 5 years before burning up in the atmosphere as a shooting star no one sees. The next generation is already in space. At the Artemis base camp on the moon, a young astronaut inspired by your memoir reads a passage aloud to her crewmates. She doesn't really know your name. You are a figure in a history book, but the work continues, the dream continues.